Let's dive in. Do you mind if I give our intro, Fran?
Yeah, go for it, Cal.
Okay, awesome. Well, yeah, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here. In this like live event, Fran Agalto and myself will kind of be co-hosting it, and we're gonna go through, some of the like insane, gains that that AI-powered code editors like Cursor and Windsurf are giving devs, but then where those fall short, some of the shortcomings of those. And offer a solution to some of those things involving this RAG retrieval augmented generation method to basically hand the LLM like here's all this contextual data to help you inform your decision making so that it's just way better in terms of correctness and quality of like code that it generates. So it's a big deal like if you're leveraging those kinds of technologies. So yeah, with that, we'll dive in here. We have I think Alex Moon is going to join us as well to answer questions in the chat. So please, like as we're going along, if you have any questions, like pop those in the chat too, and Fran and I'll try to get to them.
Yep. And we'll have like a Q&A too after the demo as well. So,
Absolutely, yeah, and a Q&A at the end. So yeah, this event is closely related to this blog post that I did. So if you have access to the chat, like I'll put that in the chat here. This would be kind of a text representation of some of the content we're going to go through in this event. But because it's a live event, you'll get to actually like see somebody work through and implement this themselves. They'll make it more kind of real and easy to follow along with, even more than a text-based doc, I think. So yeah, with that, let's kick things off here. So any of you who are technical folks on the call, you're probably already using either Cursor, Windsurf, or VS Code with all the new fancy um, Copilot features, agent mode features, and stuff like that, and getting a lot of productivity gains out of having it generate a lot of the code or refactor a lot of the code in your projects. Like it's you all know, I don't have to tell you if you've unless you've been living under a rock. Like it's been very very transformative for our industry, right? So that's not news to anybody. But I found like in my projects working with these really powerful AI powered code editors, they do have their shortcomings. So I'll outline like kind of two of those really quick, and then we'll dive into like what the solutions are, to solve those. So those are, one, as you all probably know, these large language models have a training cutoff date, right? Where they're just fed just insane amounts of training data. Um, and then there's a certain cutoff date where they don't know anything new about the world, about, new information online after a certain cutoff date for the LLM. And if you're working with some technologies that change, maybe they dropped a new version and there's some breaking changes after the LLM's cutoff date, it may produce incorrect results, right? Because all of the code examples that it's ever been trained on for Tailwind V4 or Svelte V4 or whatever it is, it will probably generate code based on all of those, all those examples that it was trained on, rather than this new syntax that it doesn't have in its training data because it, came out after the training cutoff date. So that's problem number one, is like, how do you have to kind of augment what the LLM can do for you by giving it data about, well, here's a new update that you weren't originally trained on, but I want to give you this, additional information so that you can base your responses off of the new syntax for this new version of the library or whatever. So that's problem number one. And then problem number two is that LLM, it has access to your whole code base if you're using one of these products like Cursor, Windsurf, or whatever. But if you're interacting with some API elsewhere on the internet, it may not, know what data is available in that remote API, right? So when I give it a command like, go ahead and fetch the movies, like we're going to see in our example, go ahead and fetch the movies and give me the poster image. But like it doesn't know the shape of that request. Like, well, what is this poster image? Is that metadata or part of the main data of this movie object, right? It might fail to construct a proper query because it doesn't know, the shape of the data and the types of the data and so on, that's in this remote API. So you might find yourself kind of going back to the old way of just like, manually coding some of your queries just because the LLM is just kind of failing you, because it doesn't have that data. So the solution to this in the LLM world, as some of you may be aware, is, one of the most common solutions is retrieval augmented generation, or RAG. So that can take a few forms. Basically, the overall idea is like you take the LLM, something like one of the OpenAI, models, or one of Anthropic's Claude, or whatever, one of those base models, and then you just layer on top of it additional information. So that can be, you can create embeddings, like create this vector database that you give the LLM and tell it, hey, use this to augment, what you know already. Use this additional information. That's one method. Um, but the method we're going to show you today is simpler than that, and easier to update. And that is just giving it a collection of text files that represent, hey, here are all the docs that you don't know about because your training cutoff date was, a long time ago, whatever, or because you're not able to access this external API, so you can't know that data. I'm just going to hand it to you. Here's a folder called LLM docs. Read all of it. Use the information within that to inform your responses, and when it does that, you just get, as we said at the beginning of the call, you just get more correct code and just higher quality code from implementing that. And we'll give you a really quick command you can run, npm run generate LLM docs, and it'll just regenerate all of those docs for your project, throw them in a folder called LLM docs. And then from there, you can even tell Cursor or Windsurf, using their rules feature that both of those editors have. You can tell it in the Cursor or Windsurf rules to reference everything in that folder when it makes its generates its responses and does its work. So you don't have to kind of remind the LLM every time you open a new chat or whatever. It's just always gonna to know, like, oh, this is the source of truth in this folder over here that I've been given. So it's a pretty cool solution. I've like gotten a lot of mileage out of it. So we thought like it would make for a good article, which is why that article, yeah, that I shared in the chat was written. But also we thought it would lend itself really well to this live event. So that's what we'll show you all how to do. So I will, Fran will put himself in the position of, the learner who's gonna, open an actual project, like front end Svelte code base that knows nothing about, a remote API, headless WordPress backend that we're working with. And then you'll see how we can, like, step by step implement this RAG technique to give the LLM the data it needs, and then Cursor will be able to make better decisions at the end. So yeah, that's kind of the end of the intro, what we'll be going through.
Real quick, I was kind of chatting with the folks in the chat. I haven't tried. I'm going to use Cursor for today's demo. I just asked everybody what do they use, and David and MJ do use VS Code's AI. Can you remind me again, real quick? Not to derail. I'm just very curious because I forgot. You did tell me, is Microsoft buying out Cursor or something? You were telling me something about that.
I was.
Yeah.
This is rumors, so I don't. Nobody take this as official news or anything like that. I know. I was just reading the other day. There are some rumors that OpenAI is going to try to buy Windsurf, so that they can compete, because Microsoft owns, their they own VS Code and the Copilot product, and then I think Cursor has maybe a partnership with, I don't know, one of the other big tech companies. So OpenAI, there are rumors that they might buy Windsurf as to have it as one of their offerings.
Yeah, I hear, Kellen, I hear Microsoft is quite a big company and has a lot of money. So
Heard that.
that was a joke, guys. Anyway, all right. I'm going to use Svelte. I don't really use Svelte kit. So, Kel, can I go ahead and just put the utility command in to get some boilerplate down here?
Let's do it. Yeah. For those on the call, I'm a big Svelte fan, but really the reason we're choosing that for this demo is because it supports this convention called llms.txt, where they already have, like, just plain text versions of all of their docs for the framework that you can easily pull in for this exact purpose. So that's why it's a great, framework to choose for this demo. And also because they recently had a big change from Svelte V to Svelte 4, or sorry, from Svelte V4 to V5,
Oh, okay.
with some syntax changes. So it's kind of a perfect example of a framework that like has recently changed, and some of the big LLMs that are out there, like ChatGPT and Claude and so on, not all of them, have been trained on this new Svelte 5 syntax.
Do you want me
An
to use
example.
bare bones, Cal, or what should I do?
Yep, let's do the minimal.
Okay.
Okay, minimal for this. Yeah, TypeScript doesn't matter. We can go no, keep it simple.
Okay.
And then, yeah,
Is that good?
prettier ESLint, maybe just those two.
Okay. Let me check. Whoops.
That's fine, Fran. I
Oh,
don't think
sorry.
we need
Yeah.
that. NPM's fine.
Okay. Let me. What did we name it? CDAI. Okay. Clear this out. All right. Should I just open up Cursor now then, Kel?
Um, yeah, so you've scaffolded out the app and then CD'd into the directory, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and open that on up.
Cool. Look at that. Look at this pane here with the.
Alrighty.
All right. What do I do?
Um, well, cool. Yeah, we decided, Fran and I decided in this call, we won't take the time to show you, to try to reproduce mistakes, right? To like prompt it to do something and then show you, oh, look, see, there's an example of some of the old syntax it was spitting out. But if you want to see that, the article that was shared, I'll do it again just in case, just because things have kind of backed up in the chat a little bit, but I just shared it again. If you go there, you can see, some of under the real world example heading there, you can see like some of the mistakes that it made and some of my tests for an example of what we're talking about there. But for now, you just take our word for that. Maybe you've gotten some of those kind of like old or incorrect code generation issues that I have and already know kind of these issues that we're referring to here. But yeah, let's kick things off, Fran. So now we'll dive into like the solution then to this issue. So
Okay.
first things first, like in the root of our project, like I
Yep.
told everyone in the call, we'll create a new folder and name it LLM-docs. So that's where our plain text docs will live there.
Okay.
All right. And then we'll have to put two files in here that we're going to be working with. So Fran, if you're able to open the repo,
Oh yeah, that's right. I got it open
for
up
example,
on another screen. Do you want me to open up in the actual?
if everyone could see it, yeah, that would be good. Then they'll see which things you're copying over. Yeah, and opening it in Windsurf too is probably good. Then you can just copy and paste between stuff. So this example app that we're going to be pulling a few things from, really the only reason for that is so you all don't have to sit around and watch us like manually type, a bunch of lines. So we're just going to borrow a few files from this already working example here. And this example demo app is linked in that article that I shared. So if you go, down to like kind of the solution section of the article, you'll find this linked there as well. But I just put it in the chat. So yeah, these two files we'll need. So this one Fran's copying right now is yeah, you can tell from the name it's related to generating the WP GraphQL for ACF docs. So that's a WordPress plugin that Fran has running on his backend for, it takes the advanced custom fields data and then exposes that in the GraphQL schema. So this file is going to help us to pull in the documentation for that project, WP GraphQL for ACF. Yeah,
Is this runs an intro? Oh no, that's not the introspection one.
right. That's the next one.
That's
Yeah.
the next one here. Yep.
Yeah, and this next one we'll talk through real quick. So this one, for those of you who may not be familiar, GraphQL is very cool because you're able to do what's called introspection. So that's basically where you ask the API, hey, tell me about yourself. Like what are all the GraphQL operations, like the queries and mutations that you support, and also all of the fields, that are available for each of those, the nodes in the graph, and even all of the types, because it's a strongly, typed language. So if you run this introspection query right here that Fran just pasted in, it basically tells GraphQL to like give me all this information about the whole GraphQL schema, like everything within your schema. So that's super helpful info for the LLM. We can just tell it, this is my backend API looks like this, and here's all the possible data you could query for. So it's going to use that when it constructs queries. Cool, Fran. So I think you're done porting over those two files, right? In LLM docs.
Yep, we got it right here, Cal.
All right, beautiful. So yeah, at this point, we'll start writing scripts. So in our package JSON file, we'll start adding a few scripts there that will do different things that will like pull in the documentation for Svelte, for WGraphQL for ACF, and then and our GraphQL schema from our WordPress backend. And then finally, at the end, we'll see how we can just write one kind of master command that just runs all the other ones. So that's the only one you have to run anytime you're going to refresh all your local docs like this. All right, so first one is Svelte. So this is very cool. Anyone who's following along, if you go to this link here that I put in the chat, you can see that Svelte has support for this already, for this llms.txt convention, where basically somebody as a Svelte, like I think it was like a summer project. There's a hackathon project actually. Somebody took all of the Svelte, the Svelte kit and Svelte CLI documentation and concatenated concatenated all of it, and then produced just these plain text files that you can give your LLM that contain all of the docs for those three things that I mentioned. So that's pretty cool. So so Fran copied over this command here. So let's review this real quick. So the name of it is generate Svelte docs. Yep. And then what it does is you can see it runs a curl request, and then it says go to svelte.dev/LLMs full, and full contains all three things I mentioned: Svelte kit, and Svelte CLI. So it's like everything. Grab that plain text file and then copy it into my project at this place, LLM docs/Svelte docs full.txt. So by running this, we should, if we have a network connection at least, it'll pull down that text file and save it in our project. So let's try that one out first, Franz. If you want to give that a save. Is that comma on line 12 fine? It looks like maybe it broke to the next line or something.
Oh. You want me to?
Well, in JSON, you can't have a trailing comma, so I think we just got to get rid of that. Yeah, just that empty line. Oh, that's right. It's just trying to populate one. Yeah. It's not a real line.
It's not a real line. I was like, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So if you save that, so then to run this script that we just created, we should be able to run npm run generate Svelte docs.
Okay.
We'll do it live and see if that works. Let's see.
Is that the right command, Cal? Right there. Can you see me?
We can't see your terminal.
Oh.
Or at least now I can. The Zoom tools were in the way for me for a second there. No, so that's not right. So you need to run npm run and then the key that we added there. So it's camel case.
So there, yeah, the actual right here, right here.
Yep.
Whoops.
Yeah, npm run that, and then hit enter. Cool. It looks like it works, but let's verify. So if you open your LLM docs folder there in the sidebar, Shazam! There it is. Yeah, so you all can see that curl command, appears to have worked, right? It pulled in this full LLM documentation file and just saved it to our LLM docs folder. So with Svelte, we're good. Now when you, as we'll see, in one of the final stages, when you actually tell our AI code editor, hey, this folder exists, LLM docs, use everything in it to inform your decision making. When we get to that step, now it'll like write in the Svelte 5 syntax and generate more correct code. So yeah, let's pause real quick, Fran, because David asked a good question in the chat here. This is something I was
Sure.
thinking about, yeah, talking about too. So yeah, so David Levine asked, what's the benefit of pulling and storing docs locally instead of just allowing an agent slash MCP to grab the parts of the repo they need?
Oh, that's a good
Um,
question. I didn't
yeah,
think of that. Yeah.
so one thing I was going to mention too is so Cursor and Windsurf. I'm not sure the state of things in the VS Code world, but at least those two, Cursor and Windsurf, have this concept of like you can tell it which libraries you're using, and then in the background it will try to uh, it know like if you tell it you use Tailwind, for example, it knows where Tailwind's website is, like where its docs live. And I read on Cursor's documentation that they will fetch the documentation from Tailwind, and even in the background try to refresh that every now and again, just so that they have the latest docs that they're working with. So those editors are trying to be proactive about this, and do some of this for you. Um, so this kind of implementation that we're doing here, this may be like a stopgap or something that's not really needed forever. These AI code editors might get so smart to the point where they will just anytime your network connection is online, they'll just go,
Yeah.
okay, cool. I just know what your project uses. I'll grab all of the
Just gonna
docs,
grab it.
source them locally, and use that to inform my decision making. And they're just always super correct, and this kind of thing isn't needed. That could absolutely happen. I just found like right at the moment, we're not there. These AI coders seem to be really intelligent about sending like the system prompt and the parts of your code base that are relevant and the prompt that you entered, like those three things to the LLM, and then, being really smart about how they edit your code, but not the documentation piece of it, like pulling in the docs for the frameworks or libraries you might use. That I've found is lacking. So that's kind of what led to this approach right here. Um, so anyways, some of these coders like have started to do that where they pull in docs for you in the background because they know what you're using,
That's pretty
but
cool.
we're not there yet. I've gotten more mileage out of just this very simple approach of just saying, here's a bunch of plain text files. It's everything that you need. Use it to inform your decision making. Oh, and by the way, you don't even need a network connection, right? So if you're on the subway or flying somewhere or whatever, and your code base has this LLM docs folder, it's just always there in a format that's very easy for the LLM to digest if you're coding locally, for example. So yeah, that's the kind of the reason for this. But one of the,
It's a
you
good
know,
question. Yeah.
yeah, one of the solutions like David is kind of hinting at could be a absolutely, a future with less manual work than what we're doing now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, all right, Fran. So hopefully that
Okay. We've
aside
got
was
the
kind of
stealth
was
docs.
helpful to talk through
Yeah.
for people. Yeah, so Svelte docs are done. So we're going to add our second software package now. So for
Which
those
is
tuning in, the next one is the WP GraphQL
nice.
docs. So these
Where is Jason Ball on the call? Where is he?
so
Where's
these
my
live right here. So I put the link in the chat. So if anyone goes there, you'll just see that it's a part of the main WP GraphQL project. Inside of that, there's just a docs folder, which is a collection of markdown files, and that's ultimately what's used to populate the website with the documentation. But for our purposes, what we can do is, Fran's going to add a script right now that I'll just kind of tell you at a high level what it will do. It basically, clones down, um, or downloads, I should say, a zip file of the most recent, release of WP GraphQL, unzips that, and it grabs just this docs folder that we care about. It moves it into your LLM docs folder. So you have that full collection of markdown files there for the LLM to use. And then it just deletes that zip file afterward, as cleanup. So as a one liner, you basically just end up with this docs folder I linked copied over to your project. So
cool?
let's
I
try that
the
one out
command.
next.
Yep. And look at all that.
This is
This
go.
is doing
Inflating.
extracting and inflating, Kel.
Woo.
Yeah. Sounds like me when I go on a diet. Sorry, dad jokes. All right. So here's the subfolder that populated.
All right. So yeah, crack that open. Just make sure there's files in there.
Yep, there's
Beautiful.
definitely files in here. Woo! All right.
Cool. Yeah. So now we have all the markdown files for the WP GraphQL docs. So our LLM, we can just hand it those and say, now you know everything that the docs say, for how to work with WP GraphQL. The next one's kind of interesting that we'll add. It's WP GraphQL for ACF.
Okay.
And I say this is interesting because it lives in WordPress. So these docs
Oh,
aren't
that's
just like
right.
a collection of text files or markdown files somewhere. They live at this GraphQL endpoint that I just put in the chat here. So to get this one, we're going to use that little helper file that I mentioned, kind of toward the beginning of this demo. So inside of our LLM docs folder, there's that generate WP GraphQL ACF docs. Yep. There you go, Fran. So can you show everyone that? So with this command you ran, it basically executed the JavaScript file inside of that folder. Do you want to open that, Fran, inside of your LLM docs?
Yep.
Yeah, so not that, but just the file below. Yeah, the generate.
This one
This
here?
one. This one. Yep. Yeah, so real quick, you can see on line 12, we're just giving it this GraphQL endpoint and telling it this is where all the WP GraphQL for ACF docs live, is at this endpoint. And then further down, Fran, if you scroll down, you see we're running a couple queries here. One grabs all the pages, and then one grabs all the field type nodes for all the GraphQL fields there. And then once it runs those GraphQL queries, it just writes those docs to disk. Like as it just creates scaffolds out like HTML files. So go down a little more.
Okay.
Fran, you can see. Yeah, there's the fetch, and then keep going a little more to the little HTML snippet.
Oh.
Keep going, keep going.
Yeah, it's down. There it is.
Yeah, right here.
Right
this
there.
Is basically what we're doing. After we fetch those docs from the GraphQL endpoint, we're just creating this little HTML file here, and you can see we're injecting the title as the page title in NH1, and then all the content for that particular doc. We're just injecting like as content in the page here, so that we can hand a fully qualified HTML page to the LLM and just say, parse this HTML and assume it represents the docs page for the topic that you see in the title, basically. So that's what that script does. Cool. And you can see, so Fran, you can see, yeah, now we can go just to make sure it works. So in the sidebar there, see how now we can confirm that it's pulled in the WP GraphQL for ACF.
Yep.
All those docs
these docs here
are in there. Cool. So that was our third one. There's only one more. Last one we're going to add support for, and then at the end we'll show you all how to, there's one final command you can run that just generates all of them. And we can just tell, the last step will be to tell Cursor to use the stuff in this folder. All right, so last one we'll add is for the GraphQL schema. So at this point in the process, we've shown, I should say, the LLM and handed it like this documentation for a lot of the libraries we work with. So it should be very up to date on its like responses that it generates, but it still doesn't know anything about our WordPress backend, like the data available that's exposed via GraphQL there. So that's the next step. We're just going to give it the whole schema by running that introspection query.
Yep.
So did you pop that one in?
Yeah, I did. And I have to, Kel, I have a different endpoint. Let me grab my endpoint. Let me just, because I have to, yeah. Because in your article, you use a local.
That's right.
Site. I'm going to just
swap it out with your
over to my back end here and swap.
Yeah, while we're doing that, do you want to show the group just the data in your back end?
Sure.
Which post types exist real quick?
Yeah. So the custom post type that we made is called movies. And then there are movie fields that have, let me go to ACF and just go to the field groups. There's a group of fields called movie fields. And then in the field group here, I added running time, director awards, and then this is the image field. It's called poster. And then here's the ACF, here's the custom post type here. And then I just dumped in, I did this offline. I didn't think you guys wanted to watch me get nostalgic over 80s, 90s movies. So I basically just dumped this in here. And now, with that being said, like Kellen was mentioning, his endpoint's different than mine. So I'm just going to go to GraphQL and then the settings. And for those of you that haven't used it yet, it's real easy. This awesome plugin turns your WordPress install into a GraphQL server. And then I'm just going to go ahead and go back to cursor and then replace this GraphQL endpoint with mine. Did I do that right, Cal? Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's only the one spot that has that. Yeah, so let's talk through this real quick. What this is going to do. So it's going to fire off a curl network request. It's going to, pass along the contents for that whole introspection query to our WordPress GraphQL endpoint, and then when the result comes back, then we're going to take that response and write it to disk in that LLM docs folder. What do we name it? I think introspection result or something.
Result. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's try that one now. So generate introspection result.
Okay.
Yep, so npm run.
Clear this out and then npm run.
Generate introspection results.
Okay.
Beauty. I think that worked. So yeah, you want to verify.
Whee!
There we go.
There's the
introspection result. Look at that. Beautiful. It's beautifully formatted too.
Nice.
Pleasure.
Look at that. Nice, Kellen.
Now, it's very poorly formatted to look at. If this were meant for humans, we don't actually care though, right? We're just handing this to our LLM.
LLM.
This format is just fine. So yeah, now we've pulled in everything, all the plugins and pieces of software we're working with. It has the latest and greatest for those, and now even the whole schema for our WP GraphQL backend as well. So last step is telling Cursor, in our case, that we're using for this demo, telling it to use all of the docs in this LLM docs folder. So let's do that. Right. Friendly the manly. So if anyone who's familiar with Cursor, it has this concept of rules. So you can have like a global rule that's just like anywhere in any project I work on, always do this thing. This is my preference that you function in this way, always use snake case, always use camel case, or whatever it may be. You can also scope it down to projects. You can say, hey, Cursor, when I'm working on this particular project, it always uses, prefer function definitions over function expressions, or whatever it may be, just your preferences. You can put that in a project specific rule for the project. So what we're going to do here is create some of those project specific rules for Cursor and just tell it to use, these LLM docs.
Kel, do I do this at the root of the project, the .cursor file?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, folder, .cursor folder.
Folder, sorry. Yeah.
No, no problem. And then inside of that, it'll be .rules.
Oops, that's a folder. Sorry.
Ooh, yeah.
My bad.
So this is a great tip from David too. Thank you, David. Yeah, if you have WP-CLI running on your WordPress backend, you can do what we did to run that introspection query. You could do it even more simply. With that WP-CLI command.
Oh, that's right.
That's very cool. Yeah.
Is that right, Cal? Did I do that right?
Cursor rules. Yep, that's correct. And then inside of that, you created a file. So .mdc is the extension, but we'll give it a name beyond that. So the first one, you can just do project-overview.mdc.
You said you wanted it project-overview? Okay.
Yep. And then that one, Fran, if you click the link in the chat, or just open the repo if you still have it open.
I got it open. Let me go.
Yeah, you can just copy that. You can just copy that exact file. So if you open the .cursor folder, I think it's at the top, .cursor, and then there we go. And then project overview, that one.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So just grab those contents, and we can just spend a second reviewing those real quick.
Now let's check these out here.
There we go. And you can probably close terminal now if that's gives people more room to see.
Oh, yeah.
X that out real quick.
Yep.
Yeah, so here's our project overview. You can see this is super simple. It's just, has a description of project overview here. It just says it's a SvelteKit application that sources its data from a headless WordPress site running at, and it has the backend there. So Fran, if you want to update that with the URL for
Yeah, that's right.
your backend.
Yeah.
And then it says data is accessed via the site's GraphQL endpoint, and it provides that GraphQL endpoint. So you'll need to update it in two places, it looks like. And then it tells the
Let me
LLM.
grab that. Sorry, let me grab this from there.
Sure, no problem. Just copy it.
Yep.
The URL.
Where is it? There it is. Kellen, what is it? MDC is Markdown Cursor?
I don't actually know if what that
What does
stands
that
for.
mean? Yeah.
I don't know what that stands for. I think so. That's just the format they've created where it's kind of marked down, but you can see they're adding this front matter
Yeah, it's kind of
at the top of it where
I'm confused.
it's kind of, yeah, it's markdown style front matter with the three dashes up there.
Okay.
So this is just according to their docs, like how to write a rule. They just tell you to do it like this.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, so we read that first paragraph there. The second one just says this headless WordPress site is configured with the following plugins: WGraphQL, Advanced Custom Fields, and WGraphQL for ACF. So it knows we're using those. These plugins enable advanced custom data structures in WordPress to be queried from the SvelteKit front end using GraphQL. Right. So that gives the LM kind of this like overview of, hey, here's our setup. You know about this app that you're inside of, but here's what the whole story is. Like, here's what's on the back end, basically. And it'll create one other rules file. So, Fran, if you
Okay.
want to
Let me go back to your repo because you had the
grab that from the
name.
repo.
Yeah, it's local documentation. And I'll make that here.
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
Oh, and then let me go to the content.
Content.
Yeah. Okay. And then we're gonna go.
Nice. And then, yeah, this one we'll just breeze through real quick. So this one, here's another rule. We're setting this as a scope to the project here, and this says related to local documentation. So it says documentation is stored in the LLM docs directory. Please review all of the contents of that directory thoroughly and use the information to inform your responses. And then it just goes through the list there, tells it the SvelteKit is over here, WGraphQL is over here, likewise for WGraphQL for ACF. And the last one, we'll spend a little more time on this. This says, I ran the GraphQL introspection query in, and provides the path, and saved the result in, and provides the path to the JSON response. By reviewing this, you can understand the GraphQL schema of the headless WordPress site, right? And because GraphQL, is a standard that's been around for many, many years and is well established in its training data, the LM should do very well knowing like, oh, okay, if this is the introspection query that was run and these are the results that came back, pairing that info with everything else I know about GraphQL, here's how I'm going to construct the queries. It should do like a very good job now that it has all this context.
Kellen, question for me, like if say just out of curiosity, and this is if we did not set up this cursor rules folder, in theory, would it work the same way, but obviously it's quite cumbersome to copy this rule, and every time I prompt it in my project to paste this in before the prompt, would it work the same way?
That would work, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for the folks listening, like you could try this too, if you want to. When I started using this method myself, that's how I did it to start. I thought, you know what, why don't I just give it a copy of the docs and tell it to review that first before I move on. So I would do something like this. I would say, please thoroughly review this file that contains all this SvelteKit documentation. You will need the knowledge within to answer my, the subsequent questions I ask you. Take your time to thoroughly understand it, and then let me know when you're ready for me to proceed with, with the next question. Go. Right. And then it would take a few seconds saying, parsing lines, whatever of that file, parsing lines, whatever that file. And they're like, you would chew through the whole thing to understand it. Right. And then when it said, replied back and said, okay, I'm ready for your next request. And then we would proceed and say, okay, change this and change that. right? And the actions it took were just better after having reviewed that documentation. But to Fran's point, doing that's very manually, right? Like you probably don't, every time you fire up
You-
your code editor, you
Yeah.
probably don't want to paste that in again and again. So putting it in a rules files like this is meant to have it just be kind of a long-standing thing and tell it to always, use those docs
And
instead.
automatically it
So,
will refer to that rule. You don't have to do anything, right, Cal? Nothing.
right.
It just auto refers. Okay. All right.
Yep. Yep. That's the whole intention of the
Cool.
rules is,
Yep.
yeah, for
That's
you to
cool.
tell it your preferences and what to do each time. Yeah, so that's it for setting up your project.
Whoa.
What do you think, Fran? I mean, we can
Man, let's try to,
try to generate something.
let's see if we're smarter than a eighth grader AI. Let's try.
Woo!
Let's see if we can stump the
All
AI.
right. And if
Okay, I'm
you're,
gonna look at your article. Okay.
yes, that's what I was going to suggest. Yeah. So,
Because I want to do it exactly the prompt you asked it that messed it up. Yeah.
yeah. So
Was
the
it this one,
article,
Kel? Or no? Was it another create a movies?
I think it's the same. I think I put in this post, it's at the very end, the test the solution section. So I put in the chat one last time for those tuning in. If you go to that blog post, just go to the very end where
Here.
there's the test the solution section. Here's the prompt that we're going to provide now and
Okay. I just have to
see
replace.
how it
Yeah.
does. Yeah, right. Yeah, the GraphQL endpoint.
Okay.
Really, if we wanted to be fancy, we should be able to omit that endpoint
Oh,
altogether,
let's
right?
try it.
Because it's that's in the cursor rules.
I'm down because I paid for this, man. I want to test. Gosh, man.
This will be a test of cursor's rule system. It should, yeah, obey that. So
Okay. Now, Kellen, just out of curiosity, I know you're kind of more into, you use Windsurf more, but does it matter what mode I'm in? Agent, ask, or it shouldn't, right?
yeah, I'm not super familiar with their agent mode. Definitely not
Let's
the
try
read
it.
on, definitely not the read only one.
So, so I should be able to take this out, right?
Oh, thank you, David. Follow up task. Um, yeah, let's try it. Let's try to
Okay,
take that out
let's try it.
instead of just yeah, this should be enough. Just saying send it to the WP-GraphQL endpoint, and it should know what that is because we included that in the rules.
Okay.
And then you can see here it says for each movie, render the poster image. So it should know because we gave it the schema.
Oh
Oh,
man.
that's an ACF field, and it the data should be shaped this way or whatever. It should be able to construct the query properly, and then it can do the other stuff as well here, like put the title in an H2, the excerpt, and so on.
I'm actually
So
nervous,
yeah,
man.
let's do it. So
This
agent mode,
doesn't work.
based on what David said, yeah, agent mode sounds
Pretty,
great. It should do that work
okay.
for us.
Pretty nervous. I'm kind of nervous, guys. All right.
Do it. Fire
Good.
it off.
Okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. Whoa. All right, I'll create. Okay.
All right. So generate your page as felt.
Whoa. Okay.
Okay. So as a svelte user, like I can see right off the bat, it might have done some things correctly, but it's fetching data in the .svelte component instead of like the proper way to do data loading is inside of a plus page.js or page ts file to like server render the data and then pass it into the component instead of
Oh,
just fetching it after the component mounts like this. So that'll be one thing for us to do. But yeah, anyways, Fran, let's see how it did with. Before we do that, let's look at the request it made. Does it look correct? So it did movies, ACF movie. Is that the name of your field? I think.
it
I
is
hope
not. Nope, it's movie. This is movie fields.
movie ACF
Field.
movie.
It's not
Okay,
ACF movie.
let's confirm that. Do you mind? Like in your WordPress backend, we
Yeah,
can go to
absolutely. I actually have the thing ready because this is
ACF.
where, yeah, this was like, oh man, I wonder if it's gonna. That's why I got nervous, guys.
Right.
Let's see. So it's movie fields because if I hit play, this is what comes back, man.
Okay. Yeah. So this is a good thing for us to notice. So when let's correct the LLM and say, I think you messed up the query
Okay.
for getting the poster. Please, review the GraphQL schema again and correct that.
What is it exactly in my, I forgot. Movie
Well,
field.
well, do you want to give it the answer, or do you want to just say review the GraphQL schema again?
Oh,
And
let's try that. Let's try that. I wanted to see. Yeah, that's why I'm trying to stump this thing. So you made query. Can you review?
yeah, maybe do you want to tell it the poster part is the wrong part so it knows where to focus or not? Okay. There, let me check the GraphQL schema to get the correct structure for the field, which is great, right? Since we provided it with that.
No, that's wrong too.
Dang it, featured image. Okay.
See, and here's where, but this is good, and I'll tell you why. It's because like my cousin who doesn't know anything about software development is all about like, hey, what's this new vibe coding kind of like, like the vibe coding movement thing. But I told him, I was like, you should still take a boot camp and know some like fundamentals and stuff like that. Because if you didn't know to look in this schema and see what it's doing wrong, you'd be like, okay, what's going on here? I don't know what to debug. But anyway, but yeah, this is interesting. So Kel, what should we, what,
Yeah. Um, I don't know. It's claiming that it reviewed the GraphQL schema before, spitting this out, so it should know where that poster field lives. Um, in my tests, like as Fran said, I use Windsurf as my daily driver AI code editor. And with that exact prompt, like it did do it correctly, accessing the poster field on my ACF field group. But yeah, here it's not. It's reverting back to like featured image, even though featured image doesn't have a field called poster.
it does not. No.
So we can, I mean, let's try it one last time, I
Sure, yeah,
guess.
let's just try it one more
You
last
can
time.
even tell it. So how about this, Fran? I do this sometimes. So open up LLM docs
Okay.
real quick, and then yeah, grab the result. So not that query, but just the result, the JSON file below it.
Oh, here. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. So right click and just go to copy relative path on that file. Just on like the file name in the sidebar.
Oh, here.
Yeah. Just copy relative path. Yeah, right there. Yeah. And then
Then
in the LLM, in your chat window there, let's just say um, the GraphQL query is still incorrect. Thoroughly review, the introspection query and the results in, and then you just paste that relative path and the results in and paste that whole path. Yeah, that. And then maybe do shift enter, like just get a new line and oh, okay.
oh, sorry.
Let's check the inspection results to find the correct field structure for the movie poster. Let me search for the movie type in the schema to find the correct field structure. All right, it seems like it's thinking harder this time.
Yeah.
Taking more time anyway.
What was the other question you wanted to ask it, Kel, before I hit enter?
Um, I was going to reiterate that the poster field is the thing that's wrong, and to fix that. But I think it
Oh,
it already knew that from your previous requests. So yeah, so Alex is asking in the chat if the LLM docs needs to be added to the like at context.
uh,
It shouldn't because we added instructions for cursor to reference and use the docs inside of the LLM docs folder in a project specific cursor rule. So it's supposed to reference those project specific rules and add those to like the system, system prompt and use that, pull from those docs every time for working with this project. But yeah, we're running into roadblocks. So like I would try anything at this point, probably. We could try it. Uh,
so what did Alex suggest?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the at context thing in cursor since I use windsurf, but we could try this. So yeah, add context and then
Whoops.
would
It's
it be
still,
files and folders or docs? I don't
I
know which
can
one.
stop this. Let me stop that one, and then I'm going to go to files and folders, and then LLM docs. Mm.
I probably would have let it run
Do
if
we
that's
want
what it is.
this one, Cal? The introspection query, right? Results. You want the results.
Well, we want both.
Okay, so let's get both in there. Okay, they're in there.
Yeah, so thoroughly review. Yeah, and just tell it to fix the poster query.
What?
Hmm.
Let me try again.
Well, this worked first try in windsurf. Just saying.
You want to try? Don't you want to? I don't want to have one.
I think they're both awesome. I'm not
Do you have
set
yours?
on one or
Do you
the
have
other.
your working one up, Kel? Because if this doesn't work, maybe we just see what inspect the file.
Yeah, we could, or we could just move on to checking the other thing to see if it used the Svelte 5 syntax. That's the other thing I was going to glance at.
Oh, that's the other thing you mentioned. It made a mistake on Svelte, right?
In my test, it did. It fell back to using the Svelte 4 syntax, but I don't know what it did in yours. I need to glance again at that.
What did it say now?
Let's see. You should know that source URL for the poster field.
No, it doesn't, though.
So, Fran, just a sanity check. Let's in your WordPress backend, you have. So let's see here. Yeah, so movies, nodes, movie fields, poster. Okay. Maybe pop open your so back in your code editor, open
Yeah.
up the introspection result
Uh,
file. Yeah, let's just search for the word poster. See, like, is
okay.
that should be in here, right?
Yep. Poster.
Yeah. So you see it? Let's see. Yeah.
Whoops, sorry.
It's in the word poster is in there twice. So that one's name poster. What's the second mention of it? So hit the down arrow on the search field thing to jump to the
Whoops.
other. Yeah,
I
so that's
did.
first. What's second?
I did.
All right. We're phoning a friend.
Huh.
David, thanks for all your help here in the chat. Let's see. It's working for me in VS Code with zero docs, just the introspection query. That's sweet. Yeah, I had a similar experience in Windsurf. Yeah, especially like adding the introspection query, it seemed to know. But yeah, we could try some of these other tricks, Fran, that David put in the chat, like act like you're a senior developer who knows everything in the world and so on.
Wait, hold on. I haven't looked at the chat for a while. Let's see.
That's
Oh, what David just posted in there?
so posters in there, Fran, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, cursor should be doing this properly. It knows how GraphQL works. It's been provided with the introspection query and the introspection result. So it should know that on the movie node, there's a field called whatever it is, poster field or whatever. And then inside of that, there's like the source URL, the subfields. They should know all that from having the schema. So I think this seems to be like a issue with cursor at
For
this
sure.
point
Yeah.
because we've had David said he's gotten it to work in Copilot, and I got to work pretty well in Windsurf as well, like first
Can you?
try. There seems to be an issue
Yeah,
with
it's cursor.
cursor in this particular case.
Kel, can you? I'd like to. Yeah. At least since we're kind of winding down on, I kind of want to see your working so that we can show folks what it looks like when it's working.
Okay. All right. Let me. Okay. What did I call it?
Don't download zips from strangers unless. Maybe I should go use windsurf instead.
Good advice.
Now I'm getting second thoughts. Should I cancel my cursor?
I don't know, man. I don't.
Or just use VS Code like MJ and David?
Yeah. I don't. They're all racing to be the best. I don't
The
know.
best. Yeah, they are.
I don't know who's gonna emerge victorious, but okay. Yeah, we can try this on my machine real quick if we want here. So this is Windsurf that I'm using, and I did all the same stuff. Frantic. This is the code base that I used for that article. So you can see all the same things are here. I have the LM docs folder, and it only has these two things currently. So I should be able to run um, my command here. I can do it in this terminal instead of my usual terminal, so you all can see. So I'll run generate LLM docs using the embedded terminal here. npm run. All right, so it's downloading all that stuff and saving in my LLM docs folder. All right, still fetching the GraphQL for ACF one. There we go. So it's done. Okay, so here's LLM docs. You can see it worked, right? All of the stuff has been pulled down there. So I don't use cursor, so this would be useless. I only have this in this code base for the demo for any cursor users to be able to reference. The one that makes sense for me, because I use Windsurf, is this file here. So .windsurf rules. You can see it's all the same stuff. Just project overview, and then telling it to use all these docs in the LLM docs folder here. Okay.
Yeah, let's see what it already does.
So, all right. So you see in the routes folder right here, all I have is just the top level layout and then page. I don't have any other routes created right now. So let's try using that same prompt again.
Yeah.
All right. So
Come on,
let's
please.
review this. Okay. So we're telling it create a movies page. When you load data, send a fetch request to the GraphQL endpoint. I'll leave this in because that's still, correct for my project. Take the most recent 10 movies, loop over it, and then render this stuff. Yeah. Um,
Kel, David says that you should change the model. Like
oh
Claude.
yeah, I'm on the free.
He said you probably tested
Free tier
originally with Claude
4.1.
3.5 or a thinking model.
I didn't. I used I used Claude Sonnet 3.7
Oh,
when I wrote that post.
are you?
But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just. Where's Windsurf rules? I'm gonna copy this relative. I'm just gonna cheat and tell it to review your own rules that you should do anyway. All right. Ensure you use the rules defined in Windsurf rules. Um,
Please work.
crucially important for correctness, let's say. Enter. Okay. Let's see how Windsurf does with this. All right. So to create a movies page that fetches and displays those, I'll do the following. So it's going to create asphalt route for movies.
Okay.
So that file's correct. And look, and a plus page.js or plus page.server.ts. So it's understanding how to do data loading properly in SvelteKit, which we didn't see in Cursor.
Cursor.
All right. And then in the page load function, it's going to send a GraphQL request here using a GraphQL query. When it renders it, it's going to do the H1 movies and then, loop over the results and display this stuff. And it's telling us it's going to use the ACF poster image as an image tag. Oh, shoot. Look at this. Error while editing. Page has fell. What the heck? Interesting. It wants to make a new movies direct. Oh, hang on, folks. Am I in? No, I'm in write mode, not chat mode. So you should be able to create files and folders just fine.
Yep, it did.
Huh. Okay. I don't know why I got hung up on creating that folder. It wanted to me to manually approve it
I should write a blog
or
post
run it in a terminal.
about our experience, Cal. Cursor.
Okay. Summary of changes. So it says it did the stuff. Let's see how it performed now. All right. So inside of routes, if we go to movies, I would like to look at data fetching first. So inside of here, Shazam, friendly. Look at this. Or is that not correct? Wait.
No, that's not correct, right?
Well, it just renamed it, I think.
Oh.
ACF poster. It's
Or poster.
renaming to
Oh, it gave it
poster.
another. Okay, gave it an ale. Okay, got it. Got it. Yeah.
Which, I didn't really ask you to rename, but that's
Yeah.
not the worst thing in the world as long as it's fetching the data
Data.
correctly.
Yeah.
I think we can work with that. So, okay, so at least it knew that on the movie's nodes, or no, is this not even correct though? Because on nodes, isn't there a field? Don't we need to call the field group first? And then the poster is
Oh,
inside
you're
of
right.
that.
That is correct. Yeah. Movie fields. You have to call
Yeah.
movie fields to drill down into its fields.
See, this is the curse of the live demo.
Yep.
That's not working out. Okay. Well, did in my test, to David's point, it could be a model difference.
Yeah,
I'm
that's what he
using
was saying. David said, yeah.
I'm using a free limited time of GPT 4.1, which is supposed to be very good for coding tasks, which is why I've been trying it out lately. Let's see how I did for the page though when it actually rendered it. Also wrong. This is
Isn't
Svelte
that the
4,
old syntax?
Svelte 4 syntax.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would reject all. Like you did nothing right.
This
Nope.
could be an actual blog post. Our experimentation results for Windsurf versus Cursor and how they both failed.
I know. I would like more people to do more comparisons
Yeah, I
between
would
these
too.
AI
I'd read it and
coders. I've
watch,
seen very
videos.
few.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can try this real quick. What's your favorite, everybody? 3.1 Sonnet is my,
Different models require different, yes.
2.5 Pro is supposed to be extremely intelligent as well at the moment. So let's give that a whirl. All right. And then, I donate. Oh, shoot.
Oh, sure.
I had a shortcut. I didn't mean to. Did you all lose my screen?
Yeah.
Dang it.
Different instructions, tuning, yeah. Yeah, David said different models do require different instruction tuning. It's very interesting. But you're right, Kel. Like, I mean, we could have this video honestly live in our YouTube channel as a comparison video.
Yeah. All right. All right. Sorry, everybody. I hit a wrong button and lost the screen share there for a second. Okay.
Gemini Pro. Come on.
All right, to inform your responses.
Okay.
All right. Let's see how this different model does with it.
Yeah, let's try it.
Um, I saw somebody along the lines of telling it like, pretend you're a senior dev. What would you do? Those kinds of tricks, you know. The other day I saw somebody say that what's that guy's name? That famous programmer Cormac. Anybody know who I'm talking about? Richard Cormac, is that it?
Richard McCormick?
Not Mick, just Cormac. I can't see the chat at the moment. Somebody probably knows who I'm talking about. But somebody said in the chat that he would be reviewing the code. They're basically like, this has to be the most properly,
Proper
written, thorough, bulletproof code ever. Uh,
bulletproof.
whatever his name is, Robert Cormac or whatever, will be personally reviewing every line for accuracy. So it
That's
has to be perfect for him to review or whatever, just to like instill fear or something in
in the
his
AI.
LLM so that it behaved or something. I was cracking up about that.
Into the machines, man.
He's some program he created like the Doom engine, the Doom game engine, and I
Oh,
think
he
and
did?
a bunch of
Doom is
really
sick.
impressive graphics stuff. Okay, it wants to run npm run dev to see this page. But first, before we do that, let's
Yeah,
do
let's
this.
check the query.
Hey, I think we got it.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah. Yep.
so it ran this on the movies inside of the nodes. It referenced the right field group. Inside of that, it referenced poster. And yeah, we even get some nice inline comments here. ACF field group matches your ACF field groups show in GraphQL name. Beautiful. I think it pulled this straight from the docs actually. This language, right? It knows that the show in GraphQL is the label referring to how this is exposed in GraphQL. So that's really cool that it pulled that. And then it's calling, using the right field name here, poster, to get this stuff. So this is beautiful. This is absolutely
Nice,
correct.
Cal. It worked.
Yeah, so ultimately it returns, a prop called movies, and it's sourcing that from data.movies
Is
dot,
that
dot
node?
nodes. So that's what gets passed through the component. That's great. And then the page you generated is here. Okay, so still one problem here. Like line 2, this export let is old svelte syntax.
Okay.
Um, so let's see if it'll correct that.
Kellen, how do you sanitize the HTML in Svelte? Is it dangerous set inner
How do you do what?
sanitize the HTML?
HTML is escaped by default whenever you're interpolating it
Oh, okay.
in Svelte,
Well,
unless you use this
I don't
HTML
have to
directive.
I don't have to dangerously set
Yeah, there's no
the shenanigans.
dangerously set
Okay.
inner HTML shenanigans like in React. In Svelte world, it's just if it's like
At HT.
already escaped HTML that you trust, if you just use the add HTML directive,
Okay.
then that just
Cool.
tells SvelteKit you don't need to escape this. I trust it. It's already been escaped. Just render it as is.
Okay.
So that's why it's doing this thing.
Okay.
All right. So I'm just saying this code in this file is incorrect. Review the, let's see, Svelte docs, the thoroughly.
You add makeup plan to your instruction.
There we go. So yeah, it's a bummer that we are having to correct it several times like this. Right? In an ideal world, it would do everything right,
I
right?
was
Review all
hoping
of the
I
docs
was
we
hoping Chris.
provided and then
Yeah.
do everything right first try. But I think these AI code editors are doing the best they can, right? They're sending the parts of the docs they think are relevant and the parts of your app they think are relevant to the LLM, and using like a portion of the overall information to do this decision making. And sometimes it works great, but not all the time. Um,
In conclusion, Cal, I just wonder, should
there.
my big question is, should I switch over to Wednesday?
Maybe I think the real difference though was the model. I think,
Okay.
yeah, David was probably right on on the money with that because I was using 4.1 at the beginning of this call, which I've been trying out lately for code stuff. But for a long time, for a few months, I've Cloud 3.7 sign has been like my primary one. But yeah, for this one, I tried one of the beefier
Yeah, because I was
Gemini
on Claude Sonnet.
2.5 Pro
Yeah.
models.
Anyway.
So I think the switching the model was probably the big difference here.
Okay.
And with that change, after I reminded it, I said, no, you've been given the Svelte 5 docs over here. Go review that and do it the right way. Then it was able to actually
Oh, that's the new syntax.
generate the connect. Yeah,
Let data
it's using the
destructure as
props.
data, and then
Yeah, it's doing the props rune and then pulling out of that
it's a
the
rune. Okay.
the data. Yeah, and then it's able to do data.movies as movie. Well, cool. Yeah, so at this point I would accept all and
Yeah, let's try it on the browser. Let's try it.
go view this. Is it gonna render movies? It's not. Yeah, there's a 500 error, Fran.
Okay.
So you forgot to add a lang attribute to your style tag. It doesn't like the styles or something. These
Mm.
styles look pretty innocuous
Yep.
to me. Let's see. Oh, you know what it did? It
What?
added
What?
it added a comment that's where is this line 17? Yeah, look what it did. So this is like HTML syntax, or it's spelled flavor of HTML templating language right here,
Yeah.
right? But look what it tried to do for a comment right here on
Oh.
line 17. It did slash slash example with the just as needed, which is invalid, right? HTML Svelte's going to try to render this as HTML, and it's just things are going to break.
Okay.
So what it should have done is, is this or
That's
what
the comment.
or whatever. You all know what I mean.
Yeah.
This should be here,
Yeah.
right? Or actually, even that's not going to work because right now we're like
Won't that
in the
in the
middle of a
middle? That's
tag.
what I
So
was
this
gonna say.
comment
Like,
would need to
won't
go
that feel?
above.
Yeah.
Yeah, even that comment would need to go above it. So, all right, that's the thing that it did wrong.
Okay.
This one should be fine though.
Yeah. That looks like it's commented out. That looks like a proper. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, now there's some issue with it accessing my GraphQL endpoint now. So another error frame, but
Do you
yeah,
want
I don't
any?
think we have to see it in the
Yeah.
browser. Folks can just know that it's you're supposed to render a list of movies. But yeah, hopefully despite the rough patches we hit in the demo at the end, hopefully this is helpful for all of you who, want to just give the LLM more context and tell it review this file over here, then answer this question or do this thing. It should do a better job if it uses that information properly. And if you're using, a powerful model that works well for code stuff. so
And hopefully this
so
gave you guys a contrast too, because like Kellen said, there's not a lot of content that I've seen anyway out there on compare and contrast videos and even blog post articles on the different AI code editors and what people's experiences are with them. So that's I think I'm gonna yeah, what do you
yeah.
think, Kel? I know we didn't work, but I should just still post this on our YouTube channel. What do you
Yeah,
think?
totally.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
One other thing I'll share with the group, just because it's on my mind, is this really cool site. If any of you are unaware of this, it's really a really good reference. So this is artificialanalysis.ai
Oh yeah, that's right.
is the name of the site. And it basically answers the question like, what's the best mainstream model out there for this particular thing, for like the discipline of coding or mathematics or whatever. This site just gives you a easy to read little graph so you can see like which is best. So if you go to artificial analysis and you go to code, which is the thing we care about right now, they have these graphs at the bottom here. So there's the live code bench, which is a coding one, SciCode, which is a coding one, and then human eval. From what I read, this is like the most realistic, tests to actual programming tasks that like software developers do. This is supposed to be, the closest thing to that. So you can reference this chart and see like, okay, some of the llama models like are a little lower here, but they all do pretty darn well. Looks like the winner is O3 at the moment. And here's the one we use. Look at Gemini 2.5 Pro,
Yep.
499. And in our test, like that was the one that did it better. And then here's 4.1, the first one we tried, 96. I mean, that's still very close to 99, but
Yep.
yeah, it's interesting. These are like very close. And then this is, there's much more of a difference for like some of these other code ones. But you can just Google it. Anybody who's interested, if you're like, wait, what the heck is Live Code Bench? If you just Google what that is, you can learn which of these were developed by Anthropic versus OpenAI versus whoever else, and then what it measures to know like which of these is the one that you care about. And then
Yep.
referencing the graph is kind of helpful to see the best one. So that's a cool resource if you want to check it out too. But yeah, I think
And
we could
yeah, yeah. Thanks for coming to
probably
our yeah.
wrap. Any other questions? We said we do Q&A at the end, but kind of have been doing that as we go in the chat. But yeah, anybody else? Final
Any final
questions
questions?
to pop in the chat for us?
Uh, David said,
Yeah,
"Thanks. This was fun."
thanks
And
for all your help, Dave,
thanks, David.
and
Yeah,
your good questions. Yeah,
yeah. And maybe David, if you're up for it, just thinking about future events, guys. We follow us on X and Discord and all the social platforms to keep updated what we're gonna do next event wise. But there's a lot of ideas. I just released an article which David helped me write with the dynamic mapping for the input type prop on the WP GraphQL for Gravity Forms fields, and that's something I was thinking about doing a live event. But then Alex has got routing in Astro with Headless WordPress and he's going to do a sell. So we got a lot of content. So just keep updated by following us and whatnot, and then we're excited and stoked to see you on the next event.
absolutely. Yeah, well, thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in. We really appreciate it.
All right, cheers, y'all.
Catch you later.